Welcome. You're listening to Ask the Doulas, a podcast where we talk to experts from all over the country about topics related to pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and early parenting. Let's chat.
I'm Kristin, co-host of Ask the Doulas with Gold Coast Doulas, and I am joined today by Dr. Annie is here to chat with us. She is from Rise Wellness Chiropractic. Welcome, Dr. Annie.
Thank you so much for having me, Kristin. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've chatted with you on the podcast anyway.
Yeah, probably, since pre-COVID, probably.
Yeah, and now we're doing our podcast virtually versus in our office studio space, so.
It's weird not sitting across the table from you, but being across the table from my computer instead.
Exactly. So I'd love to have you fill our listeners and clients in a bit about your specialties, your practice at Rise, and then we'll get into talking about pregnancy and stress.
Awesome. Sure. So I am a pediatric certified chiropractor, and I am also certified in Webster technique, which is a special technique for pregnancy. And so we practice basically mostly around pregnancy and perinatal care, and then also see kiddos and help them with their spines as they grow also. So that's kind of what we do. We adjust really gently, and we look at the nervous system and help families improve their nervous system function.
So you are located, of course, in Grand Rapids to serve West Michigan families. And just to fill our listeners in a bit about Webster and how that's different from general chiropractic care, could you give a little bit of background about the Webster technique?
Yeah, of course. So the Webster technique kind of started being developed probably in the 80s, and it was focused on pregnant bodies and how the alignment of the pelvis affects the uterus and torsion in the uterus as well. So that affects baby positioning and everything. So that was kind of how it was developed because pregnant women need specialized care. We can't just adjust them like any other adult body. There's relaxin in the system, so we need to be very specific and very gentle when it comes to adjusting pregnant bodies, especially as baby's growing and as mom becomes more uncomfortable in her pregnancy. And then that also kind of translates into different specialized care for postpartum bodies as well, and also for infants and kids too.
Right, exactly. And ideally, like with our clients, they like to come to you as early in pregnancy. It's, optimal to see you early, but also, you always take last minute patients, especially if baby is in malpositioned and you need to do some work positioning wise. So how does that all translate into, since it is a specific technique, can some of the work you're doing as a Webster certified chiropractor also help the nervous system, or would that be different chiropractic care in addition to seeing you for prepping for their birth?
That's a great question. I think there's a little bit of a disconnect with how we think about chiropractic care as a musculoskeletal alignment approach and a nervous system approach. All chiropractic is centered around the spine because that's what protects our central nervous system. And that's how our brain communicates and coordinates everything that happens in our body. So the benefits of any adjustment, whether it is for a pain basis or musculoskeletal approach, is affecting the body through the nervous system. And that's how we heal. And so that better alignment affects the nervous system just kind of from a basic standpoint. But then with Webster technique specifically, because we're looking at the alignment of the pelvis for birth, that is also going to influence the nervous system, how labor happens, basically. So the communication between the brain and the uterus during contractions, that is all going to be affected also by the alignment of the pelvis too.
Okay.
Hey, Alyssa here. I just wanted to hop on real quick and let everyone know about a really exciting new course that Kristin and I have been working on called Becoming. It's all about becoming a mother, and in 6 weeks online, we will be giving video lessons and live coaching calls weekly with Kristin and I, along with a private Facebook community to offer encouragement and support. The 6-week online class will actually be launching beta, which is our first launch, on March 22 with our live call on March 26. You can get into this beta program at a really super reduced price. So check us out at thebecomingcourse.com/join. We'd love to have you join us and learn all about pregnancy, birth, and early parenting, and especially during the scary time of COVID. Let us be your expert guides. thebecomingcourse.com/join. We hope to see you there.
So tell us, obviously, especially during COVID, women are under a lot of stress and strain in their pregnancy. How can chiropractic care help them reduce their stress and stay healthy?
Yeah, this is big question, big multifaceted question, I feel.
Yes.
So the stress of COVID is it's insane. I feel like we're really good at adapting as human beings to, doing Zoom calls instead, limiting, who we see and limiting our time outside, and jobs have pivoted and all of that stuff. But when we've gotten used to just all this background stress in our lives, right?
Right.
For, pregnant women too, we've kind of shifted how women are being seen for their prenatal visits, who they can bring with them, even what their birth process looks like, whether it's in the hospital. We've had a lot of moms who've switched to doing home births because of regulations in the hospital too. So
sure.
Just layers and layers of stress, right? Especially if you're trying to plan on bringing an infant into the world.
Yes.
That is also compacted with jobs being shifted to being at home. A lot of people are working at home, sitting a lot more, especially when it's, negative 10 degrees outside here.
Right. So cold.
And also, so they're sitting more. We're not moving as much as we normally do. There's all this background stress. And a lot of times we're sitting and working on laptops because who has a desktop computer anymore?
Right.
So ergonomics, there's a lot of biomechanics that are shifted into this. And then we also have the stress component too, on top of it too. So again, layers and layers and layers of stress on our bodies, especially if we're a pregnant body and tend to be more hypermobile because of the hormones that are going on in our bodies. So that's lots going on there. So how we address that from a chiropractic approach, we measure nervous system stress. So
right.
We thermography, electromyography, which is the electrical activity of the muscles that support the spine. And then we also measure heart rate variability, which is a specific stress outcome measure. So we can see if your body is super stressed out, if your nervous system's stressed out, or if we're super burnt out too. That's kind of the one or the other. So those are the things that we measure in our practice before we even start care, so we can see how is this mom doing, or how is this baby doing too. We're seeing some really stressed out babies too.
Right.
We can measure that as we're adjusting and as we're going through care to make sure that things are functioning better, that our resiliency is raised, so our stress outcomes are better. It doesn't mean that we're not going to have all of the stress on our bodies, because it's just kind of the reality that we're living with right now. But it makes us more adaptable and able to better combat that stress and switch back into parasympathetics, which is our brake pedal. So,
yeah. And I've even been in your office when you've instructed patients to do different stretches, and you're looking at, again, what their day-to-day looks like, as well as assessing their body and giving them tips. And you had talked a bit about the isolation, and your practice has this wonderful sense of community with your online space, and women are able to connect. And you also give tips out every week on your Facebook page. And so you've done a great job of trying to connect your patients and reduce some of the isolation that COVID has caused.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I'm an extroverted person, and I,
Right.
I feel so grateful that I get to still see my patients, and that we were able to stay open through the pandemic. I think I would have gone crazy just sitting at home by myself. And I know that so many people feel that, especially with birth and, bringing children into this world. We always say it takes a village, and that community and village is like non-existent right now. And that breaks my heart, because I think that's something that we don't talk about as a society enough, is what are the social, emotional impacts of the stress and not being able to have that sense of community. So.
Exactly. Yeah. And we have so many people who are not originally from Grand Rapids that even, taking the COVID factor of isolation away, if they're new to the community, it's like they need that sense of support, and going to some of your general healthcare professionals, like a chiropractor during pregnancy, can create some of that community. Even the virtual classes that we teach, we've had students exchange emails and wanting to go and, walk safely distance with masks, and find a way to connect with people who are going through the same exact thing.
Yeah, I think that's incredible. We had two families come in kind of back to back in our office last week. And It was so cute, because it was a 2-year-old, and they both went and grabbed toys and kind of played 6 feet apart and stuff, but we're shouting back and forth to each other.
Right.
Kids need that too. They need that sense of community. And
oh, they do. Yeah.
I mean, we're social beings. We have a vagus nerve, and that is, that's our brake pedal. That's a lot of our parasympathetic activity in our bodies. And that is all, we need that social engagement to help with our stress too.
Yeah. What was that study? I saw an article about the number of hugs the average human is supposed to receive in a day. And yeah, it's surprisingly high, I think 12 or 13 from what I recall.
Oh, yeah, but with kids, it's in the 60s or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all polyvagal theory. That's how we socialize, and how we, I don't know, that touch and human interaction is so important.
Yeah. So getting back to the topic of stress and pregnancy and COVID, what tips do you have for our listeners to reduce stress? And what resources do you recommend connecting them with?
Yeah, I mean, anything that we think of just kind of generally for reducing stress, we often think of yoga, meditation, deep breathing, those kinds of things. Those are all good, because they help stimulate that parasympathetic side of our nervous system, which is our rest and digest. Like I said earlier, it's our brake pedal. If we think of sympathetics, our fight or flight is our gas pedal. It's the go, go, go. We're being chased by a tiger. Our parasympathetics are to unwind, be able to sleep at night, that kind of stuff, digest our food. That's all normal parasympathetic activity. So anything that we think of as stress relieving, deep breathing, all of that helps stimulate our vagus nerve, and that is our brake pedal. So that stimulates our parasympathetic activity in our bodies. So like I said, yoga, deep breathing, all that stuff is really good. Chiropractic care is super important about maintaining that balance too between our sympathetic and parasympathetic activity. And that's one of the reasons that we measure heart rate variability in our office, so that we can, again, make sure that people's stress resiliency is changing. Other things, I mean, having that sense of community, I know it feels like we're so busy, even though our time is spent mostly at home.
Right. I feel that for sure.
Making time for Zoom calls with friends, phone calls, FaceTime, that kind of stuff, maintaining that sense of community and friendship is so, so important. I can't tell you the number of people that come in and are you know what, I just had a 2-hour phone call with my best friend, and I was so depressed. And then after that call, I just felt so much better. I felt, awake and alive, and I felt rejuvenated afterwards. And it's yeah, that's because we need that social interaction. We have community and friends for a reason. And
exactly.
even though it feels a little inconvenient, or it feels like, I don't know, I get, in ruts where it feels more stressful to like set time aside to do a call or something like that. But I feel so much better afterwards.
Yeah. As an entrepreneur, there's always work to do. So to carve out that time does seem like a lot, but it's worth it. I totally agree.
So, and having conversations with people, it's so good.
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. Especially when, again, you're pregnant, you're isolated, you're trying to hear positive birth stories and surround yourself by people who support you and your baby or babies. And so, yeah, finding a way to connect and to move your body, as you talked about yoga or walking, and just connecting with nature in some way, even though it's cold, finding ways to move versus being stuck at a desk all day.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. All of that is super beneficial. And we've been telling our moms, like, you need to take some kind of online birth class, like meet other moms too. I think especially with first time moms, they need to, bounce ideas and, like you said, hear positive birth stories.
Exactly.
With other women that are going through the same things that they are, because there's a lot that's not talked about with pregnancy, just kind of in general, until you get into a conversation with a mom and they're like, oh yeah, I get vaginal lightning, like
right.
Like where it's like, I didn't know that. I thought that was just me.
Yeah, the things your friends don't tell you. Yeah, unless you're in a class where it's openly discussed or in some sort of a mom's group. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's not anything that my friends ever passed down to me. And most of them had kids before I did.
Yeah. Well, and it's some of the things that you don't think about until somebody's like, this has been hurting me a lot. And, have you had this sensation? Have you felt this? So.
Right.
Yeah. Like my favorite moms, like giving each other tips and
Yeah, it's wonderful. And I appreciate your advice. So how can our listeners connect with you, first of all? My second question would be, how can they find a Webster certified chiropractor in their area?
Oh, good call. Okay, so we're based in Easttown in Grand Rapids, West Michigan. So our website is risewellnesschiro.com, or you can find us. We're on Facebook and Instagram. Both of our handles are Rise Wellness Chiro, so CHIRO. So they can find us that way, and we book or schedule people over Instagram messages.
Yeah, you're very active on social media, so people can message you and reach out if they don't directly contact you at your website.
Exactly. Yeah. We also have like our email address and stuff on all of those things too, and everything's kind of interrelated. So, and it'll be Rachel, my partner, or I reaching back to you. So, and even if you just have like questions about like general pregnancy stuff too, if you need help finding a chiropractor in your area, we're more than happy to help with that too. The best way that I would say to find a Webster certified chiropractor, if you don't live in West Michigan, or if you don't live in Grand Rapids, then West Michigan is huge.
Yes.
To go to the ICPA website, that's the International Chiropractic Pediatrics Association. That's who I'm certified through. That's who does the Webster certification. And actually, it was all started by Larry Webster. So the ICPA website is ICPA for kids, like the number 4, and then .com, I believe, or .org. They both go to the ICPA website. One is for practitioners and one is for patients. But on the very top link, it says find a chiropractor near you. So you just type in your zip code and it'll take you to the search.
So helpful. Thank you. And appreciate your time today, Dr. Annie. And I hope we can chat again soon in person.
I hope so too. I miss seeing you guys.
Yes, we miss you. Take care.
You too.
Thanks for listening to Ask the Doulas. For more information about Gold Coast Doulas, visit us on our website, goldcoastdoulas.com. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and give us a 5-star review. Thank you. Remember, these moments are golden.